Welcome back to Mama Needs a Moment, and a special welcome to our HER Plus expert providers joining us for today's roundtable conversation on holistic beauty and wellness rituals for overwhelmed moms. This series is all about realistic, life giving practices that help moms feel grounded, restored, and more connected to themselves without adding more pressure, perfectionism, or impossible routines, because that's what we all want. Together, we're going to explore simple nervous system resets, mindset shifts, sensory grounding practices, connection centered parenting, and approachable beauty and wellness rituals that actually fit into real life. Before we dive in, each of our experts will briefly introduce themselves and share their area of focus. And don't forget, these conversations are also available in video format on our YouTube channel. All right, let's go ahead and get started.
Hello, everybody. I'm Tiffany Webb. I am the owner of Stillness and Skin Skincare Studio. I help women navigate and understand their skin during transitions and just really using skincare as a way to reconnect to themselves and own beauty on their own terms. So I'm work mostly with women in like their late 30s, going into 60s, dealing with perimenopause and menopause, but honestly, anybody in transition. So from teenager to young adult, your pregnancy, postpartum, any transition at all.
I'm Irene Gooch with Loving Lessons Sleep Solutions, and I support parents as a postpartum doula and sleep coach. And I work with families that have newborns through the school age season, and specifically with parents who are exhausted, overwhelmed, and they have tried everything with their child that's sensitive, very alert, and has a case of FOMO, fear of missing out. I use a holistic approach through the Calm and Confident Sleep Foundation to pinpoint the root cause of that sleep disruption. We build a clear plan together and give parents the tools to move forward with confidence. And parents then can learn to lead sleep and have sleep coaching success when they can show up and feel calm, confident, and rested.
I'm Naseem. I'm a licensed professional counselor, and I own Javon Coaching. It's a therapy practice and coaching practice that supports moms with anxiety, depression, perfectionism, people pleasing. And my coaching practice covers and supports women who are struggling with overwhelm, the identity shift in becoming a mom, and also supporting the communication with their partner and decreasing resentment.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Parise. I'm the founder of Great Days by Sarah because I think everyone, especially moms, deserve to have more great days. And I'm an ACE certified personal trainer and accountability coach. So I think food, fitness, and then finding your best self in motherhood. And I do everything under the 2% umbrella. So 2% of the day goes back to you. If you're not a mathematician, it is 28 and a half minutes. So we break it down to 28 minutes for yourself each and every day. So when we are our best, we can show up our best to everyone else we want to care for.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Let's go ahead and get started. We have a great discussion in store for everyone. There is so much messaging aimed at moms about optimizing every part of life. You can go on to any of the search engines, Google, Pinterest, Yahoo, plug anything in. You're going to have so much shot back at you about optimizing your morning routines, your skin routines, fitness routines, productivity routines. It's so overwhelming. Over time, even wellness can begin to feel like another exhausting checklist rather than something supportive or restorative. So today, we would love to talk to you all about helping moms to learn how to step away from the pressure of doing more and instead explore the power of small, intentional moments that help the nervous system feel grounded and safe and supported in everyday life. What does it look like to move away from rigid routines and toward supportive rituals that genuinely help moms feel more regulated, present, and connected to themselves?
I think that we oftentimes confuse routines and schedules and the pressure we're putting on ourselves. Because I think that when we look at what a routine does, a routine actually provides the structure for us to feel safe. It's like things that we know that we're doing daily that really help support us. One of the things that sometimes we don't realize is that routine may have expired. And maybe it looks a little bit different in the season of life with our children. So, depending if we're in like the newborn season, the preschool season, or the school age season, we will probably need to adjust our expectations and also adjusting the roles and responsibilities that are taking place during that time of day. So, I think we do need that structure to understand what takes place here, making those decisions, but allowing there to be flexibility, which is like the grace we need to attend to ourselves and to our children as we live life through the day.
Absolutely. And to kind of piggyback off what you were saying, in my industry, we call this kind of wellness fatigue. And that is where essentially the things that maybe once brought you a sense of just, peace and connection and awareness now kind of feels like another chore. So really what I say is first, give yourself some grace. Right. You're doing a great job. Instagram and the media as a whole can sometimes make us feel like we're behind, we're not doing enough. And that's absolutely not true. Once the camera shuts off, real life starts, right? So we don't get to see all of that. But honestly, I think one of the biggest things is maybe checking in with yourself. I say this to clients. What is it that you truly are wanting? What is important to you? So in the context of skin, it's what is the goal that we are trying to achieve? Like, let's kind of tune out of the noise of the media. Let's tune out of the noise of just like the shoulda, couldas, any type of expectations you've put on yourself, even like your younger self. So just really checking in on what is important to me now, and then being able to start building a routine from that.
I love that. I talk a lot about having the difference between rituals and routines. Like routines, like Irene said, are things you go through. It sets up your day. And a ritual is something that you bring to like with intention. So as I'll say, give the example of a morning routine. Like it's really easy to like fly downstairs, turn on the coffee pot, check your email, start to make lunches, and do all of these things because it's part of your routine. Versus a ritual might be you come down and you turn on the coffee and you smell the coffee and you listen to it percolating and you hear the sound of it hitting your mug for the day and you're really in the moment. And it's a huge shift from just running through all the steps that have to happen and really enjoying the moment and enjoying the process of a routine. I think that's the biggest difference with a ritual, that it's the intention behind it, how you go into it.
One of the things that I had to learn in my parenting journey was I was so quick to just get started. And I didn't even pause to do like a greeting, like, hey, good morning. Like I see you, and making eyeball contact with my little ones. And so just that small little shift made such a big difference in our coming and going.
I totally and completely agree. I think that in a lot of moments, our kids are just looking for connection from us. And if we are able to just slow down and be intentional, and even though we're overwhelmed and everything is chaotic around us, if we're able to just stop and check in with them, even if it's just for a few moments, that really makes a world of difference.
I love what you've said about the routine expiring, Irene, or getting what I think you said routine fatigue is what you said, Tiffany, perhaps something to those lines. I really liked that. And I'm very interested in, from your perspective in your individual industries, what it might look like or some physical signs that a mom might be having that her nervous system needs support rather than just continuing to add routines or seek something else to help her.
So I would say specifically one of the signals that I think is really important to listen for is crying, because crying is communication from our children. So if we hear tantrums or our kids are whining, melting down, maybe hitting, biting, that is a good signal to kind of recognize like my child needs a pause. And in that moment, also recognizing maybe I've been going too fast. And so, one of the things that I really encourage parents to do is as they're going through their day, just to pause and actually breathe love. Take a moment to just stop, take a deep breath, and notice, am I coming from a place of love and understanding, or am I coming from a place of fear and judgment? all of a sudden in this moment, because sometimes we don't realize we're putting pressure on ourselves to get too much done or go too fast. And that crying is oftentimes a signal of like, my kids can't handle it, and I actually can't handle it too. Because oftentimes we can just see like we've just been running or going and doing. And that pause can sometimes just be enough to step back and recognize what's working here, what's not working here, and figuring out how do we make that small shift. And sometimes it could look like, I think a misunderstanding oftentimes in parenting is that we have to be calm at all times. And I would say match your child's energy. So if like they're crying or upset, sometimes we need to just be like, ah, and move our body or do something so that we can get that energy and that tension out to be able to focus in and notice like what's really happening in this present moment. And that oftentimes is really confusing because we feel like we have to always be calm, always do that, but that's that pressure we're carrying. And so just recognizing we can be human and show up, and that those are just signals for us to really just pause and recognize how do we show up just a little bit different.
For me with skin, the skin is not separate from the rest of your body. It's definitely along for the ride with every single piece and part. And a lot of times what can happen with women is they stop paying attention to kind of like what's really going on with their skin. Everything just becomes like, I'm just doing it because this is what I've always done. My skin now is probably more reactive. And at this point, I'm maybe not even really paying too much attention until it gets to a point where like now, like my skin is like completely angry and irritated and you can't ignore it. But usually there are small signs along the way of where your skin is starting to brace because you as a person, depending on what's going on in your life, these transitions are starting to brace as well. And so sometimes with our skin, like if we are able to take some time to slow down and notice. I talk a lot about bringing some awareness to your skincare routine. It doesn't have to be this like long, 10-step thing, like just your basic, like 4 to 5 products in the morning. But just slowing down enough to just notice like, what does it feel like? What does my face feel like after I apply cleanser? What does it feel like after said serum? Because those things are also kind of indicators of like something, my skin is in transition. And like I said, these transitions are not in a vacuum by themselves. More than likely, whatever is happening internally, emotionally is also showing up on the skin.
And very similar from a fitness standpoint is that I tell moms, like what worked in our 20s and our 30s is not going to work in our 40s and 50s. Like more is not always better. Like you used to go to the gym 6 days a week, or you used to run X miles of run a week. And what worked then doesn't necessarily work now. So when your body's constantly tired, a day off is just as good as a day in the gym. We need that time to recover. We need that time for our cortisol levels to reset. We were having a great conversation yesterday with a group of moms. Like cortisol is not bad. It's a natural part of these hormone shifts, but we don't want it to ride high all the time. We need it to come back down, and it needs to fluctuate in order for us to recover. So I think just looking at, like Tiffany just said, with your skin, and same thing with your body, your physical body, when you're working out, you need that downtime. You need to start to notice, and you should listen. Like if you're feeling like you need to stretch, you probably need to stretch. If you feel like you're too tired to get up in the morning, yes, sometimes it's just you don't want to get up in the morning, but a lot of times it's your body does need that rest, and we do need to start to listen. And especially as this perimenopause sets in and you do need more rest and recovery time, not like we used to bounce back like in our 20s, it's really important to listen to our physical body.
I also think like something that we don't talk about enough is like when kids are having a meltdown, it's because they have an unmet need. The same thing happens for moms. Like when we're getting irritated or we're getting frustrated, it's because we have some kind of unmet need. And so really checking in with our body and our mind and what's happening for us and being able to slow down and be intentional. I think even just focusing on, okay, have I had any water? Have I had any food? Let me just check in on my basic needs first before I can be attuned to my kids' needs, and even doing like a co-regulation process of like checking in on your own needs and checking in on your kids' needs in that moment when they're having a meltdown and you want to have a meltdown too.
So much of what everybody has been saying in this conversation goes back to rest and slowing down and being intentional. And I wonder if any of you have feedback on the fact that so many moms find rest and slowing down and being more intentional being unproductive. It's a moment where they really struggle. I've talked to tons of moms who they struggle with it because if they rest or if they slow down, they're not knocking things off their to-do list and they're not getting things done. And there's this struggle. So do you have any thoughts around that? How can we stop viewing rest as this unproductive part of our day?
I can sum it up in one sentence that works for me, that you need to slow down to speed up. And that's what I remind myself all the time when I know I need to have a break and the dishes are filthy and the house needs cleaning and I have a list of emails to get through. I need to slow down in order to speed up instead of powering through.
I think redefining our definition of success. And we were talking about how there's different stages and phases of motherhood, and that looks different. Success could look like, hey, I got 20 minutes of movement in today, or I was able to get the kids outside, or I was able to, even if it's like, we're looking at 20 minutes of intentionality, of like you were talking about, Sarah, the 2%. I think just redefining success and shifting our expectations of ourselves. I think just based on, I know there's unrealistic societal expectations on moms. So shifting that, shifting our definition of success and just trying to create those micro moments is really important.
I think that sometimes too, it's important to recognize like the story that we're telling ourselves in that moment. For me, like I learned to overfunction and I was just always busy. And if I wasn't doing something, I thought I was lazy. So something that I started practicing was mindset moments where it was like a daily practice of like, I'm just going to take a pause. It's a lot of the things that everyone has discussed. It's just that like one thing, can I just slow down to speed up? And one of the things that I have always practiced since my daycare days when I was home with my kiddos, and it was amazing how much it shifted my sleep and everything in my day and my mood, was actually taking a 5 to 20 minute rest daily and just giving myself permission to set the phone. And I didn't have to sleep. I didn't have to take a nap. I just needed to get my body horizontal. And I think most importantly, it was just giving myself permission. And if it was just 5 minutes, it was going to be good enough. And if it was 20 minutes, then that's what my body needed. And interesting enough, because I have practiced that for like almost like the last 12 years, my body kind of naturally wakes up around the 17 or 19-minute mark. And so it's just this daily rest. And it gives me so much energy for like the time of day when it's like a busy transition with everybody coming home from work or daycare and school. And so I've been proactive in helping myself slow down to speed up.
Similar to you, Irene, I know for me, at first it was like trying to rest felt like that just felt crazy. Like, oh, I'm a mom, I've got too many things to do. But what I did was at first I started out with just like a 5 minute increment. And it wasn't even that I went to go lay down or anything. It was, I call it like, I love nature. So for me, it was like, I need to put feet on grass. So even if I couldn't necessarily actually, put my feet in the grass, just being outside. So taking a 5 minute moment, no phone. And it was just like, I'm just going to go outside and I'm going to breathe some fresh air. I'm just going to take in some nature, even if it's just on my porch and just breathe. And then slowly I started adding more and more time to it so that it felt easier to let rest come into my life without that like initial feeling of like, oh my God, I'm being lazy or I'm being unproductive. I had to start with that small moment and then gradually it got bigger and now it's a lot easier to do.
This was such a good conversation around the power of regulation and why routines are great, but not always the answer. And at the very end there, we touched a bit on these tiny moments in our lives, which we're going to dive even more in depth in our next episode. So be sure to check that out.